So if you want a good outcome tomorrow, it's a one-round game in which the US forces its trading partners to treat it fairly. Other countries don't engage in a tit-for-tat response. And we transition to a world where it's a fairer trading system, with other countries carrying more of the burden for common public goods. That's the good outcome for tomorrow. The bad outcome for tomorrow is that other countries do not believe this is a single round game. They believe there's no point in agreeing to anything. And they decide to put counter tariffs on. And then the question becomes, what does the US do in response to that? So this is, Dambisa, how uncertain tomorrow is. And I think the key issue is ultimately, will this be a single round game, which was what happened in 2017? Or will it be a multi-round? And we will end up talking about this for the months to come.
So, Mohamed, I think that that's fantastic in terms of clarifying the option. This morning, many of us will have seen you on CNBC, and you've intimated it here, but just for our purposes, you were very clear that you thought that these two paths were essentially equal weighted, 50-50 possibility. I wonder if we can take a step back and push you a little bit further in terms of what you think the motivation of these tariffs were. We've heard, and you've intimated here, that there may be a negotiation tactic, which would lead to the second that you described. But there is this argument that the United States as we know, has been struggling with a very challenged fiscus in terms of its deficit, in terms of its debt profile. In fact, the Treasury Secretary, who has been here at the Economic Club recently, has talked about his 3-3-3 plan, and the deficit getting to 3% is one of those targets, which would be far off the Congressional Budget Office projections. Could you just talk to us a little bit about this idea that the tariffs are either there for negotiation purposes or therefore revenue purposes? How does that feed into revenue purposes, meaning to help close the fiscal deficit? How does that backdrop either add or subtract to what you've just described for us? And maybe also, could you use this as a starting point to bring in where you think the rest of the world is in terms of the reaction to the tariffs?
Sure. So when President Trump said in October that this was his favorite word in the dictionary, and the only problem with tariffs is they didn't have a good PR company, is because he saw multiple use for tariffs. You can raise revenues, you can protect domestic industry, you can force countries to treat you in a reciprocal fashion, and you can pursue non-economic objectives, immigration, fentanyl, etc. So the attractiveness of this one tool in his mind is that you can fulfill multiple objectives. Then you got the economists responding, saying, no, 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 that's the basic mistake in economics. You cannot use one tool for multiple outcomes. You have to decide which is it. And then what we've stumbled into is a tariff policy that's quite segmented. So we saw round one with Mexico and Canada. This was to pursue non-economic objectives. Round two on autos, on aluminum, that is to protect domestic industry. Tomorrow is round three for reciprocity. We will do to you what you do to us. So what we're seeing is that it's being implemented in different ways to try to meet these multiple objectives. That is the US perspective. The rest of the world perspective is that we are a bully, that we basically have the strongest economy in the world. Europe is on its knees. China is really struggling right now, trying to reconcile two competing policy objectives. And that the US is using that window to seek unfair advantage. And that is why there is no agreement between the US and the rest of the world